This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions.
Hi, this is Joe Rabil. So what I want to do today is continue this process of learning how to trade by looking at two charts side by side. And today I'm going to use an intraday example on the SPY. Actually, no, it's on the XLK technology. And this is from Friday. And I think it's important to understand that even if you're not a day trader, you can learn a lot from looking at these specific time frames as a way. It's sort of like a building block of understanding the different aspects to the signals, all right, and then apply them to longer term time frames. That's essentially what I did. I started out doing a lot of day trading, a lot of short-term trading, and now I apply it to longer term time frames. So let's go ahead and get into this. Now, if you're interested in learning more about some of these techniques that I'm going to talk about, you can go take a look at the book on the website, rabilstockresearch.com/book. Also, if you enjoy this content, please hit that like button and also subscribe. Okay, so as I said, I've got the chart of XLK up. I've got a 5-minute on the right and a 1-minute on the left. All right, now I talked about this in my webinar for my subscribers, which I do once a month. We go through and look at a lot of detail, and I decided to spend some time. I actually had a request to go through some intraday techniques. And one of the things I just want to point out here is the specifics of your pattern. So what I want you to understand something is, if you want to really improve your log sheet, like if you want to see your numbers in your log sheet improve, your win rate, the size of your wins relative to the size of your losses, there's one thing that you can truly do that will improve things, and that is to be a lot more selective. All right, take fewer trades and look for high quality trades, A+ trades only. All right, A+ only. All right, if something really meets all the criteria we're looking for, you can take those trades. If it triggers on the smaller time frame, then you take the trade. If you don't have the setup or you don't have the trigger, then you don't take it. All right, and if you do that, I think your numbers are going to improve dramatically. All right, now I want to start with the 5-minute, and what I want to show here is we make this kind of climatic peak to start the day. We gap up, kind of give it back, consolidate down. And then if you notice what happens, we break. We have a pretty good red bar to the downside. And notice what's happening here. As this is rallying back up, the MACD, which had crossed down below, is essentially testing. This is a zero line reversal, right? You came down below and then tried to rally back above and then turn down, all right? So we get that turn down, and then we get a rally to an 18, which is below the 40. Both lines are declining, all right? They're actually going at about the same rate, all right? They look about at the same, they're almost parallel, all right? But they're both declining, and it's early in the trend. We haven't even broken down yet, really. This is the key support level, but we've already shown signs of some sellers showing up, and that shows up in the form of red DI breaking out above 25, and then the failure at the zero line. And then notice as we rally up, now this is not a clean signal because we didn't make two higher lows, but look at how crystal clear the pinch is when we look at the MACD. So when I see that, I am looking for a pivot low. All right, now let me just make sure this is clear. So if we get a move to the downside and then we make two higher lows, then all you have to do is take out the low of the high bar, right? We come back through. Once we take out the low of that, then we have a signal. But if we don't have that, we move down, and let's say we come up, we move up, and just like this, we make this, and then we come up, and let's just make sure that isn't a, let me take that one off. So we've moved up, we've rallied off the low, but we don't have two higher lows in the process. So what we want to do, just like this, we don't have two higher lows. We got to make a pivot high, and that pivot high comes in the form of a big red bar. All right. Now, what I do is because I know I'm in the area of the 18, and this is rolling over, I have a pinch and red DI is kicking in. Instead of making this time frame get me in and get in down here, I'm going to use the smaller time frame and see if there's any kind of a real solid trigger. All right, now when I look at the 1 minute, this is the 1 minute, so this piece right here is right here on this time frame. All right, and notice what's happened. We've come down and we've gotten these two moving averages to come together. We've gotten the MACD to come back to the 0 line. All right, and then we have this green pop, but the ADX is very low. So we had strength on the sell side, but even though this has rallied up, the ADX is very low. That's showing this the buyers aren't all that strong. And then look at what shows up. Big red bar breaking the downtrend line. So to me, this is a really solid trigger that gets me in, as this is essentially clicking in to the downside here. It's not right off the top, right? I mean, you're probably getting in. This is probably a fast moving market. You're probably down in here. But we can also use this time frame to kind of control the risk. We can use the average true range on the 1 minute chart if we want, or we can just look to see. What I like to do is look at the average true range and make sure it's in this ballpark somewhere above here. If the average true range is here, then I know that I'm taking a lot of risk using the average true range because I could get stopped out pretty easily. So I prefer to have an overlap. And if the average true range is putting the stop here, I'm still going here and I'll probably trade a smaller amount. But really good signal where we get this big red bar to show up, and that actually leads to this big red bar, right? And very, very nice signal. All right, now let's just move on and notice that, so this is a little bit different. We get a move here and then we have another pinch, but this pinch comes farther away from the 18. All right, so it's not, to me, this is a much higher quality setup, but there's so much strength in the momentum. There's no rollover in the ADX. The ADX is still rising. You could take this, you just probably have to make sure we see a solid signal to the downside on the lower time frame. And in this case, you actually got a really nice pinch setup on the higher time frame. The lower time frame, what I like to see is we rallied up and we formed a little ABC like this. The moving averages lines came together. We didn't quite make it to the 0 line here, but look at what red DI did. You see how we had a lot of strength to the downside, and then during the rally, green went above and then it quickly came back down, and red kind of got right back above and held right as this was forming here. So as we come back down through this low at 239.75, we have a pretty solid signal that gets us in. Like I say, in a trade like this, when we're a little bit further away, I might actually consider doing a little bit smaller size, but I think this is still a very good setup when the ADX is rising. If this ADX starts to roll over, if there's any sign of contraction, which there wasn't, we did not make any real signs of reversal on these lines. Since we didn't have that, I think you can still take this when it's stretched away. All right, but you got to be a little bit more careful on this type of trade. You got to really take a hard look at what's taking place in the DIs and make sure there is no sign of buyers stepping in or anything like that. All right, now, and then the other side of it is, while we didn't have an ABC like that, we did get this little contraction here. We had this move up a decent amount, but the key thing is keeping an eye on the red DI. Now, if you notice, on the first signal, we had the pretty crystal clear MACD 0 line reversal. And on the second signal, we didn't really have that, but we had a really nice DI. This is why in the courses I go through and I explain how important it is to understand every single reversal on the lower time frames. When you're looking for a signal, they're going to be a little bit different. They're not the same. If it were always the same, if we always had the same signal here, then it would be pretty easy to do these types of trades. All right. What makes it a little bit more difficult is you have to understand, I tell you, there's four different basically reversal types or entry types that can take place using the moving average configuration. And once we know that, then we have to go down and look and see what's going on with the MACD and the ADX. And if you notice, they're different each time. So we have to make adjustments based on that. And that's what the course is all about. So I hope this makes sense. Now, again, this is on a 5-minute chart, but this could be happening on a weekly chart, and then this could be the daily. And I've shown this countless times where the signals overlap where, in other words, something that looks like a 1 minute chart actually looks like a daily, something that looks like a 5 minute chart looks like a weekly. So you can apply all the techniques that I'm talking about on higher time frames. Now, one last thing I'll mention here is if you notice we had this sort of complex reversal and then we get a bear flag and a second bear flag. What happens after two bear flags when we look for a complex pattern to develop? We don't necessarily look to play three in a row, especially on the intraday time frames. I would stay focused on trying to play two bear flags or two bull flags in an uptrend and then look for something a little bit more complex, more of like an opposing trend pattern. And if it's going to continue, we'll get a signal to the downside on the higher time frame, or we'll just get a reversal and then we got to be a little bit more patient. All right. Hope some of these things help. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.